You know that video on YouTube of the dog with narcolepsy? The one that's all cute and fluffy and bouncing around 1 second and then the next, plop, onto its face on the ground. And it's cute, and you probably sent it to one of your friends or your aunt and thought it was funny. You know that one? Well, this isn't like that at all. I was 16 when I first fell asleep in the middle of class, and it wasn't fluffy or cute or funny. My forehead hit the desk with a loud thwack and startled the poor girl next to me and caused the teacher to spin around abruptly, so I was told. "Mr. Coolidge, Mr. Coolidge," she had said, as that poor, startled girl shook me awake. "Up late last night, playing those video games, watching TV?" I didn't know how to answer her, because I hadn't stayed up late, and I wasn't even tired at all that morning. Well, she must have taken my confused silence as an admission of guilt, and she looked at me sternly and gave me a warning and told me it would be best to not let that happen again. I couldn't have agreed with her more. It was only a week later before another thwack onto the same desk in front of the same teacher, startling the same poor, timid girl in the seat next to me, except this time, instead of verbal chiding and the giggling of a classmate, I was awarded a detention slip and later a grounding from my parents. "I'm not staying up late," I pleaded with them, watching as they hauled my TV and my computer down the stairs from the room. "I was in bed by 8:30 last night." They either didn't hear or chose to ignore me as they made their way to the basement, and that, I thought, was that. And then, if I recall correctly, it was at the dinner table only a few days later when, yeah, you know, thwack, into my meatloaf and mashed potatoes. And then, finally, my parents figured that it might have been something more than your average teenage drowsiness. Narcolepsy is not like you think. It's not all thwack onto desks and hardwood floors and dinner tables. It's more of just a general sleepiness, usually at inappropriate or inopportune times, almost exclusively actually. And I can drive and jog, and I even skydived once, but I just get tired a lot. There's even a medication for it too, although it had some wicked, stomach-churning side effects that I like to avoid. Just like most of you, I live my life normally. Well, I used to at least. My girlfriend is the love of my life, and I don't tell her enough. She's tall, brunette, with slender legs and big eyes, and a smile that reminds you of those cute, fluffy, narcoleptic internet dogs. She loves the Beatles and the movie Airplane, and she does this annoying thing where, whenever I yawn, she sticks a finger in my throat to gag me. And Gwen, if you're still out there somewhere, listening to this, please know I love you so, so much. I remember that the first real instance came when we were driving somewhere, to dinner, the grocery store, I don't remember exactly, but we were in the car, I know that for sure. "I'm driving, Sleepy," she said with a smile, and I piled into the passenger seat willingly. We played the radio and we drove, and Gwen commented about how strange it was that there was no traffic, and I told her not to jinx it. In a town where 1 million people crowd a space meant for a third of that, I figured we must have entered another dimension or something. "Maybe they're all dead," she said over the music. "Don't get my hopes up," I called back. She cruised around a slow-moving minivan in the middle lane. It was early afternoon, and the sun was pointing directly in our eyes as we sped down the highway. And when I closed my eyes to shield myself, I felt it. The warm, calming pull of sleep of keeping my eyes shut for one more minute. Just one more quick second. Thwack. Gwen smacked me in the chest. Am I boring you or something? I rubbed my eyes and laughed, and she reached to turn the radio up, and then she screamed. I saw it. Just for that moment, the truck stopped in the lane in front of us. A shadow passed overhead, cloaking us in darkness for a moment, and it was gone just as fast. This was it. There was no slowing down. I closed my eyes and tensed every muscle as time crawled and I waited for the punch. I opened my eyes. Get up, sleepyhead. A pillow was tossed into my lap. Where was I? What happened? Why am I... How is... And then I remembered. The truck. Gwen, look out! I jumped off the couch and knocked into the coffee table, sending me to the floor. My shin was on fire. My heart was pounding. Gwen's voice filled my head. Whoa, you okay there? Bad dream or something? Bad dream? No dream. I wasn't sleeping. We were in the car, on the highway. I was awake. I was awake. I was asleep. I was sleeping? I asked. Gwen cocked her head and raised an eyebrow. Yeah, you conked out for a few seconds. I let you sleep while I put my shoes on. I could still feel the blood pump through my wrist. My heart slammed against my chest. It had felt so real. I could still see, still hear, still smell even, that car, the road, the music. How could it all have been just a dream? I'm driving, Sleepy, Gwen said, smiling as she picked her keys up. Let's hope there's no traffic out there today. Hallucinations are common for folks with narcolepsy. It's similar to what people with sleep paralysis report. Tall, dark strangers at the foot of their bed, the corners of their bedrooms. I remember hearing a story about a guy who went mad from one of those hallucinations. Although, what's to say that he wasn't just a nut in the first place? Before bed, as a kid, I would see a shadow. It had no discernible face or body, no real features whatsoever. But the way that it would crawl across the ceiling used to curdle my blood and haunt me. Thankfully, I never had any trouble sleeping. It had been years since I'd seen anything before bed, and I think maybe the medication had something to do with that. That shapeless, faceless blob of a shadow had been absent from my dreams or wakefulness, and I had almost forgotten about it entirely. But, wouldn't you know it, the same night, that very same one as the incident with Gwen and the car, my old friend made a reappearance. Gwen, I'd whispered. Gwen. Normally a light sleeper, my girlfriend didn't respond. It was black and grey, formless and spectral, and it no longer crawled, but glided across the ceiling as if it were a ballet. Gwen, Gwen. And then it spun, and twisted, and curled and shrank. It shrank smaller and smaller and smaller, until it just disappeared against the drywall. And just as suddenly, it ballooned out of the ceiling and coated it like paint, and I squeezed my eyes shut, and I was out. It was a while before the second incident. Months, I think. Gwen had talked me into believing that I really was sleeping that day. And how could I even know, since I fall asleep all the time? It was morning, and the emails were piling in. Phones rang, and low, useless chatter sounded across the floor, and I nursed a hot cup of coffee, trying to ignore it all and get into the rhythm of the day. I clicked through some emails. Subject: Danksy report? Luke, send this to me ASAP, okay? Subject: Office Halloween party. We still need someone to sign up for candy corn. Any takers? I respond to the necessary, peruse the less necessary, ignore the droll and gossiping time wasters, until I got to my last one. Subject: Sleep well? There was no sender visible. Do you know how many of these I get a week? Every week I'm sent some nonsense spam email about the latest pseudoscience narcolepsy cure. Just the previous week, I learnt from one of these that key pressure points and 4 low monthly payments of $29.99 could cure me outright. So I bit. Might be a little fun to break up the day. I opened the email and my screen froze. I clicked the mouse. Nothing. Typed. No response. In the body of the email was just one small black period. I pushed the kill switch on my laptop and the period grew. I pushed against it, harder, more forcefully. It grew and it grew, larger and larger. It expanded, increasing in size until it filled the whole email, then the body, and then the screen. I felt my heart in my chest again, and I stood up, knocking over my coffee and letting out what I hoped was a shout, and then nothing. It was dark. Someone had shut off the lights. A power surge, I thought. It was a hot summer, and we'd had a couple already. I stood up, prepared to peer over the walls of my cube to ask a co-worker about it, but the desk was empty. I turned to my neighbour on the other side, and her desk too was unoccupied. Stepping out into the hall, I poked my head around the corner. Empty, empty, empty. Hello? Silence. I leaned back into my cube and sat down. I was about to get up again when I heard the air conditioner in the building click off, and it hit me. It couldn't have been a power surge. I checked my watch. 8:03 p.m. Cold sweat formed on my forehead. I just got here. It was just morning. I just spilled my... The brown puddle I had formed was gone. My desk was dry, and my mug was gone. What the hell? What the... My voice trailed off in the darkness. My keys were, thankfully, still in my pocket, and without looking, I ran from the office building, taking the stairs 2 at a time, got into my car, and sped home. Gwen had greeted me at the door. Late night? I swallowed and nodded, at a loss for words. I knew how crazy it would sound. I woke up. From what? Where had I been? How long had I been there? What the hell even happened? Gwen heated me up my dinner, and she was talking, but I didn't listen. Still caught in my own head, trying to process the day's lack of events. Next week Jamie's gonna be... Thanksgiving plans. My ears pinged. Thanksgiving? I turned to Gwen, scrunching my eyebrows. Why are we planning out so far ahead? She scoffed and shook her head. I know a week is a lifetime for you, Luke, but some of us have to actually make plans. My head froze. What's the date? I didn't want to ask her. I really didn't. The 18th, Gwen said, and probably seeing the lack of understanding in my face, added, almost sarcastically, "Of November." I ate my dinner in silence. So here we are, caught up to now. That's all the important stuff, at least. On Black Friday, I lost an hour. A week after that, I jumped ahead a day. Just last week, I found a watch that I'd lost in 2006. It was on my wrist the whole time. Gwen had said it had been on my wrist as long as she'd known me. I looked at the mirror yesterday morning, and my face looked younger, my skin smoother than I remembered it ever being. There doesn't seem to be any pattern or rhythm to it. Sometimes the shadow is there, sometimes it's not. I've been having trouble sleeping, actually. I haven't slept much, to be honest, but I also haven't been feeling tired, so that's gotten better at least. I didn't know how to deal with it, but it was largely inconsequential, so I figured it would be okay. I seem to have gained about as much time back as I've lost, so maybe there is some sort of reasoning to it. But then, this morning happened. Laughter rang out from the living room. Gwen, I assumed, watching something on TV. Christmas had come fast, but I hadn't passed it, so I was glad to be enjoying it. "Hey babe," I said, entering the room. "What are you watching?" But the couch was empty. Actually, the couch was gone. The apartment was dark, and, looking around, I noticed the furniture was all gone. Blue light came in through the window, a calm winter dusk. "Gwen?" I stepped outside into the chilly air, and there was silence. No planes in the sky, no cars in the street. "Hello?" I went to check my watch, but my wrist was unadorned. "Gwen? Anybody?" My heart stopped in my chest. What year could it be? What time? Why is everyone gone? I walked into the street, and I sat down in the middle of it. A shiver crept up my spine and shook out through my limbs. "Wake up," I tell myself. "Wake up!" I scream it down the road, and it echoed off similarly emptied buildings. The sun almost set, and my shadow stood in front of me, long and black. I walked towards it, but it remained out of reach. How long has it been? And where have I gone? I haven't slept in a few days, but maybe it's because there are no days here. The sun never sets, the moon never rises, the shadow remains where it is, in front of me at all times, no matter which way I face. I close my eyes and scream and try to startle myself awake. I must be sleeping somewhere, right? This must be all just a dream. I've considered climbing an empty building, walking out the window. Thwack. Maybe I'll wake up. I have to wake up, because I refuse to believe the alternative. Maybe this is awake, and I've been asleep this whole time. But I'm feeling drowsy.